Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get you really well informed on the big topics.
That's the plan.
And you asked us to unpack artificial intelligence, specifically, how it touches everyone, sometimes when we don't even realize it.
Right.
Who's building it, who's using it, and maybe the biggest question, who's getting left behind?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're tackling today.
Yeah.
This deep dive is focused on what we're calling the AI engagement spectrum.
Okay.
It's basically a framework, breaks down the whole global population into 10 distinct groups based on, well, their relationship with AI. It's a map, really.
A map of the human side of AI. I like that.
Exactly.
And we're pulling this straight from the big AI user spectrum research plan that you shared. So our mission for you listening is to give you a clear, structured way to see this landscape. Think of it like a shortcut. Get those aha moments about the human side of AI, but, without drowning in information. Okay, let's unpack this fascinating report. Who is actually making up the global AI landscape? So we're going to start right at the top, yeah. The architects, the people actually creating and building the core AI tech.
That's right. The absolute foundation. These first two segments, they're the bedrock.
Okay, segment one, the Frontier Research Vanguard. Sounds pretty elite.
Oh, they are. This is the absolute apex. Top researchers, scientists, engineers working in the big corporate labs, the top universities.
So they're the ones making things like GPT, Gemini.
Yeah.
Literally defining the future.
Literally. And what's kind of mind-blowing is how small this group is.
How small?
We're estimating maybe 25,000 to 35,000 people.
Globally.
Wow, that's tiny. Tiny number, but their impact, it's immense. Outsized, really, like a handful of people steering this massive ship.
And a big part of that influence, the report mentions this compute moat. What exactly is that?
The compute mode. It's crucial. Basically, it's the staggering cost to train these huge AI models.
Like, how much are we talking?
Well, think about OpenAI's GPT-4. Estimates are around $78 million just for the computing power.
78 million.
Yeah. And Google's Gemini Ultra, maybe $191 million.
Whoa.
So that cost is a massive barrier. It means only a few huge companies can really afford to play at that level. Google DeepMind, OpenAI, Meta's AI Lab, Anthropic, Inflection AI.
It's like a research oligopoly.
Pretty much. And what's fascinating, or maybe concerning, is that this means the direction of fundamental AI research gets decided in just a few corporate boardrooms.
Yeah. If it doesn't fit their business goals.
It might not get funded. Exactly.
So with corporations dominating the compute, what about universities? Stanford, MIT, are they out of the game?
Not out, but their role is shifting. They can't compete on pure compute anymore.
Right.
But they're vital as talent incubators. They train the people who go to those big labs. And they're key for specialized research collaborations.
So it's more of a partnership now.
Absolutely. In 2023, there was a record number, I think 21, significant AI models that came from industry-academia partnerships. It's essential.
And that collaboration is changing research itself, making it more team-based.
Definitely. Research teams are getting bigger, more interdisciplinary. You look at NeurIPS, a top AI conference, the average number of authors on a paper went up over 50% in the last 10 years.
Wow.
Now it's nearly 5 authors per paper. It just shows how complex these problems are. You need different kinds of experts working together.
Okay, so we have the vanguards, the thinkers. Now, who takes those ideas and makes them real? Segment 2, the AI engineering core.
Right. These are the builders.
Yeah.
The global workforce turning breakthroughs into actual apps. Software developers, ML engineers, data scientists.
And this group is much bigger.
Oh, yeah. Way bigger. Estimated 1.5 to 2.5 million professionals around the world.
Globally spread.
Yeah, the U.S. still has the biggest chunk, maybe 40–50%. Then China, Europe. But you're seeing explosive growth in places like India, South America.
The developer community itself is booming too, right?
Huge growth. Up 50% between 2022 and just 2025. It's a massive dynamic workforce.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. The report talks about this hype disillusionment cycle among these engineers.
Yes.
Tool adoption is up, right? 70% to 76%. But how they feel about the tools, that's going down, 77% favorable, down to 72%. What's happening there?
It's the reality check, basically. Developers are the ones in the trenches. They see the subtle inaccuracies, the security issues, the code that needs endless debugging.
So the hype meets the messy reality of actually using it day to day.
Exactly. They get a more realistic, sometimes more critical view. And the insight here is it's not just about the tech's potential, it's about the real-world integration challenges.
And that can cause problems, like a disconnect with management.
For sure. You get execs pushing for faster rollout while the tech teams are maybe hitting the brakes saying, hang on, this isn't quite ready for prime time. That leads to friction, stalled projects.
And this feeling, this trust level, it's not the same everywhere.
No, big cultural differences. The report points out, like in India, 59% of developers trust the AI tools.
Okay.
But in Germany, 32% actively do not trust them.
Wow, that's a stark difference. Why?
It likely reflects different things. Germany's strong engineering culture, focus on precision, GDPR regulations, versus India's really fast-paced, competitive adoption environment. Culture shapes how you see the tech.
But despite the skepticism, AI isn't going away for them. It's changing their jobs, not ending them.
Exactly. It's augmentation, not replacement. The hot skills now, things related to generative AI, building custom GPTs, using AI for productivity, creating AI agents.
AI agent, like AI that does stuff for you?
Yeah, performs tasks autonomously. And the biggest benefit developers mention, increased productivity, not job loss.
So if it frees them up.
Right, frees them up to focus on orchestrating the AI, validating its output, the higher level stuff. It's a partnership.
Okay, so we've got the creators and the builders. But how does AI actually get woven into businesses, into our work lives? Who's driving that?
Right, that brings us to part two, the drivers of adoption, the strategic leaders, and the everyday professional users.
This feels crucial for seeing the real-world impact.
It really is. This is where the rubber meets the road economically.
Let's start with segment 3, the enterprise strategists. So senior leadership, C-suites, boards.
Yep, the people making the big calls. Strategy, money, organization-wide decisions about AI. Allocating capital, setting up governance. Or not.
How many people are we talking about here?
Estimates are around 5 to 10 million globally,
Yeah.
mostly in medium to large companies.
And for them, AI is a big deal.
A huge deal. Top priority. 79% say AI adoption is critical for their company's success.
79%.
Yeah. And almost a quarter of C-suite execs are personally using generative AI tools themselves now. It's not just delegating it down.
And you see that urgency in adoption rates.
Absolutely. Enterprise AI use jumped from 50% to 72% in early 2024, mostly driven by generative AI.
Right.
And Gartner's prediction is wild. 80% of enterprises using generative AI APIs or models by 2026. That's up from just 5% in 2023. A 16-fold increase.
That's incredible speed. But this raises an important question. If everyone's so keen, why do 76% of leaders say they struggle with actually implementing it?
The adoption capability gap.
And only about half, 54% of pilot projects actually make it to full production. What's the hurdle?
It's usually not the tech itself. It's the massive organizational change required.
Like what?
Like rewiring everything. Workflows, how you handle data, your talent strategy. It's fundamental change. A lot of projects get stuck in pilot purgatory.
Pilot purgatory?
Yeah, they just keep testing, never quite scaling up. Because the foundational support, the cultural shift isn't there. It's hard work, changing how a whole company operates.
So what is motivating them to push through that pain? And what keeps them up at night?
The drivers are tangible results. ROI, cost reduction, revenue growth.
Making money, saving money.
Basically, over half, 51%, of companies using Gen AI report seeing revenue increases of 10% or more.
Okay, that's a motivator.
But the risks are huge too. Inaccuracies, hallucinations, data privacy nightmares, security vulnerabilities, bias creeping into decisions.
I mean, governance is lagging.
Seriously lagging. Only 18% of organizations have an enterprise-wide AI governance council. There's a real risk of moving too fast without proper guardrails.
Okay, let's shift from the strategists to the people using AI every day on the job. Segment 4, the professional integrators.
This is the vast majority of knowledge workers. People actively using AI tools in their daily roles.
Marketers, finance folks, doctors, lawyers.
Exactly. Using AI tactically, it's a really substantial group, maybe 100 to 150 million people globally.
And adoption is surging here too.
Across the board, like 88% of marketers use AI, 85% of financial institutions expected to by 2025. 66% of U.S. doctors already are. It's becoming standard practice.
Can you give some specific examples? How are they using it?
Sure. In marketing and sales, mostly content creation, market analysis, personalization, and the benefit. 93% say they create content faster.
Frees up time.
Exactly. Time for more strategic work. In finance, it's huge for fraud detection, trading algorithms, analytics. 86% report a positive revenue impact.
And healthcare. You mentioned doctors.
Yeah, 66% of U.S. physicians use AI now. That's up 78% in just 1 year.
Incredible. What's the main use case there?
The biggest opportunity they see, 57% of them, is reducing that mountain of administrative paperwork.
Ah, the bureaucracy.
Right, freeing up time for actual patient care. It's a huge win.
So massive benefits, but the report flags something worrying, this DIY training culture. What's that about?
Yeah, this is a major risk. Employees are jumping in, using the tools,
Board sounds good.
but 70% of marketers, for example, get zero formal training.
70%, no training.
None. It's like handing out power tools with no safety manual.
So what are the consequences?
Well, lots of people don't know how to use the tools safely. 39% of marketers admit that. Or how to get the most value, that's 43%.
And that leads to
Big risks. Leaking confidential company data, accidentally infringing copyright, making biased decisions because the AI reflected biases in its training data. It's a huge potential liability for companies.
So despite all the different jobs, the different tools, the core value for these professionals seems to boil down to one thing: time arbitrage.
That's a great way to put it, yes. Across almost every field, the biggest win is automating the repetitive, lower-value stuff.
The drudgery.
The drudgery, which frees them up for the uniquely human skills. Critical thinking, complex problem-solving, judgment, creativity, empathy.
So AI isn't devaluing expertise.
No, it's enhancing it. It lets professionals operate at a higher level, focusing on where humans really excel. It's about leveraging our strengths.
Okay, let's move into part 3, the consumer ecosystem. How does the general public engage with AI? From the power users down to, well, people who might not even know they're using it.
Yeah, this section really shows the breadth of AI's reach into everyday life, often in ways we don't even notice.
Starting with segment 5, the Generative AI Prosumers. Prosumers.
Yes, sir.
Producer consumers.
Exactly. These are the really engaged folks, active creators, power users, often paying subscribers for things like ChatGPT Plus, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion.
They're kind of the early adopters, the vanguard of consumer AI.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they're economically crucial. A smaller group, maybe 25 to 40 million globally.
But they punch above their weight.
Absolutely. Their subscriptions, like that $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus, basically pay for the free access millions of other people get.
So they're funding the revolution in a way.
They're the economic engine for direct-to-consumer AI. OpenAI's premium tiers alone, generating over $2.4 billion a year. It's serious money.
What do we know about who they are, and are they just playing or using these tools seriously?
Demographics skew male, about 59%.
Yeah.
And younger, mostly professional active, 25-34 is the biggest group, then 18-24.
And usage.
It goes way beyond just asking questions. They're creating, producing things. 32% of Midjourney users say they primarily use it as a professional tool.
A tool for work.
Yeah. They learn the advanced features, push the limits creatively. It's often a serious part of their workflow or hobbies.
And the report mentions their online communities are almost like unpaid R&D. And marketing.
It's an amazing dynamic. You look at the Midjourney Discord server, it has over 1 million members. They're constantly sharing results, figuring out prompts, reporting bugs.
Free feedback.
Totally. And when they create something amazing and it goes viral, that's organic marketing worth millions. It's a brilliant ecosystem for the AI companies.
Okay, next layer out. Segment 6, the everyday AI consumers. This sounds like the big mass market.
It is. Hundreds of millions of people actively, knowingly using free AI tools for everyday stuff.
Like what?
Asking questions, getting information, maybe generating a simple image or some text for fun. Using the free version of ChatGPT, for instance.
And the size here is huge.
Massive. 400 to 600 million globally. And the adoption speed, unprecedented.
ChatGPT's growth was legendary, right?
Record-breaking, 100 million users in 2 months. Now maybe 400 million weekly active users. It dominates the web traffic for generative AI, over 60%. Nothing has spread that fast before.
Who's jumping on board so quickly? Any demographic patterns?
Definitely skews younger. In the U.S., 43% of 18 to 29-year-olds have used ChatGPT. Compare that to just 6% of people 65 and older.
Wow, big age gap.
Huge.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the report notes Black and Latinx youth are significantly more likely to use AI. That's an important nuance.
So for these hundreds of millions, is AI something they use constantly, or is it more occasional?
For most, it's more like a utility, something you dip into when needed.
Not a daily habit.
Not for most. Common uses are finding info, maybe creating some basic media. Students use it for homework help, brainstorming. But daily use, Only about 1.7% for ChatGPT.
That must be a challenge for the AI companies trying to make money.
It is. How do you monetize that infrequent usage? That's the big question they're grappling with.
And for younger users, you mentioned it's changing how they find information. They're asking AI instead of Google.
It's becoming a primary interface for many. They ask it questions they might not ask a parent or teacher, which is disrupting traditional search, definitely. And it puts a huge pressure on education to teach critical evaluation. Kids need to know AI doesn't always get it right.
Okay, now for the biggest segment of all. Segment 7, the unwitting beneficiaries. Billions using AI without even knowing it.
That's right. This is the largest single group, the vast majority of the world's digitally connected population. They interact with AI constantly, benefit from it, but mostly without realizing it.
AI is just invisible infrastructure.
Exactly, an embedded layer. We're talking about 5 billion people, basically everyone who's online.
5 billion, that's almost the entire internet population.
Pretty much. Think about social media users, 5.17 billion of them. Over 80% of the content they see in their feeds. Recommended by AI.
So every time you scroll Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you're deep in an AI-curated world.
Constantly. It shapes your information diet, what you see, what you think about every single hour. And it's not just feeds.
Where else?
Your smartphone, AI assistants are everywhere. 61% of iPhone users use Siri. 41% of Google Pixel owners use Gemini. It's right there in your pocket, working behind the scenes.
But people don't think of it as using AI.
Generally, no. You don't think I'm engaging with an algorithm when you scroll Facebook? It's invisible. Only 11% say AI features are a reason to upgrade their phone. 20% don't even know how to use the AI features already on their device.
That invisibility, you said it's a double-edged sword, convenient but risky.
Hugely risky. Yes, it's convenient, like good plumbing, you don't think about it. But it opens the door to manipulation, misinformation at scale, a subtle erosion of your own agency.
When algorithms are shaping your reality without you knowing.
Precisely. The report has a chilling line. The most powerful AI is the one you do not know you are using. It makes you question who's really pulling the strings in your digital life.
So could this lack of awareness actually create an opportunity for companies offering transparency, explainable AI?
I think absolutely. There's likely a massive untapped market for tools and platforms that give users real transparency and meaningful control over the algorithms.
Build trust by showing how it works.
Exactly. In a world of increasingly opaque AI, transparency could become a huge competitive advantage.
All right, we've covered the creators, the pros, the consumers, active and unwitting. Now, part 4, the periphery of awareness. People who are skeptical and completely disconnected.
Yeah, this final part really throws the inequalities and challenges of the AI era into sharp relief.
Let's start with segment 8, the aware but apprehensive public. These are people who know about AI, but they're mostly worried.
That's the core disposition. Caution, concern, skepticism. Often fueled by media coverage, maybe. It's a large, influential group.
How large?
Estimated 1.5 to 2.0 billion people globally. Polls consistently find cautious or concerned are the most common reactions, like 52% feeling nervous in one big Ipsos poll.
And in Western countries, concern outweighs excitement.
By a lot. In the U.S., it's 52% more concerned versus just 10% more excited. A really significant tilt towards apprehension.
Are these just vague anxieties or specific fear?
Oh, they're specific. Tangible worries. Job losses, 48% of Americans very concerned. Misinformation, deepfakes, 58% very concerned. Privacy erosion, 53% very concerned. And even dehumanization, losing human connection, 57% concerned.
So real-world impacts they can imagine affecting them directly.
Exactly. It's not abstract sci-fi fear for most.
Now, connecting this to the bigger picture, there's this global Southwest optimism divide. That sounds geopolitically important.
It's a profound split. You see huge majorities in places like China, 83% optimistic, and India, 82% optimistic. They largely view AI as an engine for economic growth, a way to leapfrog.
Okay.
But then you look west, Canada, 40% positive, US, 39%, France, only 31%. Much more focus on the downsides, the disruption.
And that has implications for regulation.
Right.
Who leads?
Huge implications. Different regions will likely pursue very different regulatory paths based on that underlying sentiment. It shapes the whole global AI race.
And given the concern in the West, there's probably a strong desire for rules.
Very strong. 88% globally think governments should be able to halt risky AI. 72% say clear laws would make them more comfortable. The public is demanding guardrails.
Okay, moving to segment 9, the technologically aware AI ignorant. So people use tech, but don't really get AI itself.
Exactly. They're online, use smartphones, social media, but their specific understanding of AI is low. They've heard the buzzword, but can't really explain it or identify common examples.
How many people fall into this category?
It's substantial, maybe 1.0 to 1.5 billion globally. Think about this. 90% of Americans have heard of AI,
Right.
but only 30% can correctly pick out common ways it's used in daily life.
Wow. That's a huge gap between just hearing the term and actually understanding it.
It really is. The awareness-understanding gap. For many, AI is just noise, a buzzword from headlines, not a concrete concept. Familiarity with specific AI services can be really low, even in developed countries.
Why does this gap exist? Is it an education failure?
Fundamentally, yes. Public education, corporate training, they haven't kept pace. The public conversation often jumps to the dramatic stuff, superintelligence, robots taking all jobs.
The sci-fi angles.
Right, instead of building basic, practical literacy about AI as a tool, as a probabilistic system.
And what's the danger of that ignorance?
It makes people highly vulnerable to misinformation, to hype. If you don't understand the basics, you can't critically evaluate the claims you hear, whether they're overly optimistic or wildly pessimistic.
So this AI literacy gap, it's not just an individual problem, it's a societal one.
Absolutely. It holds back productivity because people don't know how to use the tools effectively. It weakens democracy if people can't spot AI-driven manipulation. It slows down responsible adoption overall. We need functional AI literacy for society to navigate this era effectively.
And finally, the last segment. Segment 10, the digitally disconnected. People entirely offline.
This is the baseline, the portion of the world completely outside the digital and therefore the AI revolution.
And the number is still huge.
Shockingly large. The official figure is 2.6 billion people.
2.6 billion.
Yes, about 32% of the entire global population.
Mm-hmm.
Still offline, the number's decreasing, but very slowly. Nearly a third of humanity.
And this isn't random. This disconnection follows predictable lines of inequality.
Stark lines. Income is huge. 93% are online in high-income countries, only 27% in low-income countries. That's a 66-point gap.
Wow. Geography, too.
Big divide, urban versus rural. 83% of city dwellers are online, but less than half, 48% in rural areas. 1.8 billion of the 2.6 billion offline live rurally.
And gender.
Still a persistent gap globally. 70% of men online, 65% of women. And that gap is much wider in many developing nations. It paints a clear picture of systemic exclusion.
So it's not just about lacking internet cables. There are other barriers.
Definitely. Cost is a major one. The price of devices, the cost of data plans can be prohibitive. And then there's the lack of basic digital skills, foundational literacy. You can't just give someone internet access. They need the skills and affordable means to use it.
Now, what's fascinating here, as the report says, is how AI changes this digital divide. It's not just about information access anymore.
That's the critical point. The emergence of AI creates the AI divide. It deepens the existing digital divide.
How so?
Because it's no longer just about accessing information or communication. It's about accessing the fundamental tools of modern economic productivity, of advanced healthcare, of sophisticated financial services.
Tools powered by AI.
Exactly. So if you're offline, you're not just missing information, you're being locked out of the core systems driving future progress and prosperity.
That sounds like it could make global inequality much, much worse.
It threatens to, potentially creating a permanent state of underdevelopment for almost a third of humanity. Future efforts can't just be about connectivity. They have to bundle it with affordable devices and, crucially, massive education programs for both digital and AI literacy. Otherwise, that gap just becomes an unbridgeable chasm.
Wow. What an incredible and slightly sobering deep dive through this AI engagement spectrum. We've gone from that tiny group of elite researchers
all the way to the 2.6 billion people completely disconnected. It really gives you that structured view of the whole landscape.
Yeah, a comprehensive map. And the big takeaway seems to be, this transformation is happening incredibly fast. It's complex. And it's deeply uneven.
Profoundly uneven. You see these concentrations of power, these disconnects between hype and reality, and these huge global divides in both access and perception. It's definitely not a monolithic thing.
So this deep dive, hopefully it's giving you that clearer map, maybe spark some of those aha moments we talked about. But here's where it gets really interesting, maybe the thought to leave you with. If this AI divide, in all its forms, is truly one of the most profound challenges humanity faces, what role does your own understanding, your own engagement, or lack thereof play? Are you helping bridge that gap? Or maybe, inadvertently, widening it for the billions around us? Something to think about.